Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Happy Thursday, everybody. Hope your day and your week are going well so far. We've got a new day, which of course means a new NBA player prop video to share with you guys. I've got a ton of great picks for today's NBA slate that I'm really excited to hand out to you guys today. But first, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, drop a comment down below, all that good stuff. College basketball tournament starts today. If you can't tell, repping the UConn Huskies gear. Go Huskies. Listen, living in Connecticut, there's not a lot of benefits to it, but one of the good benefits is we always have a phenomenal college basketball program, whether it's the UConn men's team or the UConn women's team. But go Huskies. The tournament starts today. Comment Huskies down below if you're either a Huskies fan, maybe you have a future on the Huskies to win the national title, or just comment Huskies just because I said so. So comment Huskies down below. Guys, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We have a ton of great college basketball stuff that'll be coming out. We already have, by the time this video drops, Ev will already have a college basketball video out for today's, for betting purposes. I'll have some college basketball videos coming out throughout the next couple of weeks. So don't make sure you guys don't miss any of that. Plus, baseball starts soon. We're going to have baseball. I'll be doing MLB player prop videos. Ev will be back to doing his MLB picks videos. So a ton of great stuff in store on the channels that you guys do not want to miss. Quick little recap of last night. I do not have a graphic for last night. Apologies for that. We had 9 player props in our straight prop section. Unfortunately, Tobias Harris didn't end up playing. He was a game time decision, so that cut us down to 8. We went 4-4 on the 8 props that still stood. And not bad. Again, not fantastic, but not terrible. That means over the last 2 days, we are now 9-7 on our straight prop segment. So, again, we're not on a fantastic run, but we're not on a terrible run of late either. We also had a 4-leg parlay yesterday. 3 out of 4 legs hit. The 1 leg we missed was Andrew Nembhard over 10.5 points plus assists. We missed it by 1. He finished with 7 points and 3 assists. A brutal bad beat there. He even came in late in the game and took a shot. I thought we would have had it, but it is what it is. Overall, when you combine the parlay record with the straight prop record yesterday, overall 7-5 on the props. So not terrible, not great. Let's see if we can get this a little bit better today. I've got a ton of props to hand out. Quick statement, we are not going to do a parlay today just to save some time. I have a ton of props in the straight prop segment that I had picked out. If I did the parlay too, this video would have been over 30 minutes long, and obviously we got a lot of college basketball stuff to do today. So no parlay today, but 5-leg Freaky Friday parlay tomorrow, of course, as always. But trust me, I have at least, I think, 10 or 11 props for today's slate that you guys, I think, are really going to like. All right, guys, let's dive right in. The first player prop for today's slate, and just to clarify, I do have 10 player props to hand out in the straight prop segment for today's video. The first player prop for today's slate is coming from the Sacramento Kings Washington Wizards game, which kicks off at 7 p.m. Eastern time. We're going with Kyle Kuzma of the Washington Wizards over 21.5 points. We'll go ahead and now kick this over to the Outlier screen, guys. If you don't know what Outlier is, they're the best sports betting tool on the market today. Link in the description below. You get a 7-day free trial to try it out for yourself. All the sports betting data you're going to see in these videos and all our videos here on the channel, they mostly come from Outlier. They really are fantastic. You get a 7-day free trial when you use that special link in the description below. And what do you have to lose at this point? You know what I mean? Like, do it for 7 days. You don't like it, that's it. It's over. If you love it, you subscribe. And honestly, it does help a lot when it comes to picking player props and stuff of that nature. With college basketball, with MLB, NHL, all these sports that are active right now, this is such a great tool to have in your back pocket if you are into sports betting. So one more time, guys, link in the description below. 7-day free trial. You guys will not regret it. All right, so here we go. First prop of today's slate, Kyle Kuzma over 21.5 points. We get this for -125 on DraftKings. It's available on Underdog, Caesars, and BetMGM. The data is fairly strong on this one. 8 of his last 10 games, he's cashed this over. You stretch that data to his last 20, 13 of his last 20 games is a 65% hit rate. And on the 2023 season as a whole, a 57% hit rate, 37 out of 65 games this year. He has cashed this over for Washington. And you know I love my head-to-head data here. And look at the last 3 times he faced off with the Sacramento Kings, including the one time they played this year back on December 18th. He cashed this over. The last time they played on December 18th, he had 27 points in a game that was a really high-scoring affair. The previous 2 times he had over 30. And look, this game has the highest point total of any games in today's window. The over-under set at 237. The last time they played in December, the game was 143, 131. So the NBA, the sports books, they're all expecting this game to be a high-scoring affair, which makes sense. And when you're looking at Washington with all the injuries that they have right now, it's just really hard to find who's going to score. Like if you're expecting a lot of points here, you got to assume that Kuzma is going to be a huge part of it. I mean, look at all the injuries. No Landry Shamet, Eugene is out, Isaiah Livers. I mean, those guys obviously they're not big players, but Tyus Jones is out. Rashawn Holmes is a game time decision with an illness. He's questionable. I'm gonna operate in the assumption he's probably not going to play that much or at all. Bilal Coulibaly is out for the season. Marvin Bagley's still out. Denny is a game-time decision with a right knee bruise. I think he's probably going to play, but still, a lot of injuries here for Washington. And so with that being said, guys like Kuzma is going to have to play a ton of minutes, and he's going to have to step up. And you look at the right side of the screen here, the matchup is solid. You look at Sacramento on the year, bottom 4 in the league in points allowed to the power forward position, giving up 26.5 points per game. And although they have been a little better defensively of late overall in the year, Sacramento has struggled with defending the power forward position, those big guys. Domantas Sabonis, a great offensive player, not so much a great defensive player. And looking versus the center spot, because Kuzma will probably play quite a few minutes at the center position. They are ranked top 10. However, in the last 7 games, they are more middle of the road. So they're not as good as this number shows, but they're still a decent enough team. Again, I just think the volume of play that Kuzma's going to get, the number of shots he's going to take, I think even though the defensive matchup isn't necessarily the best in the world for us, I do think that Kuzma should be able to score 22 points in this game fairly easily. All right, guys, and for the second prop of today's slate, sticking with the same game and also referencing Sabonis, we're going to go Domantas Sabonis here over 20.5 points versus Washington. Again, high point total. Most of the points I'm assuming, are going to be scored by Sacramento here. They are heavy favorites as well. And it's a pretty safe bet that Sabonis will do a lot of that scoring. You see here, he's cashed this over in 6 of his last 10 games. This is the second night of a back-to-back for Sacramento. They played Toronto last night, and it was a blowout. He had 13 points, but he only played 27.6 minutes, which I think is a good thing for us here today. On the second night of a back-to-back, he didn't play a ton yesterday, so hopefully he will play, fingers crossed, at least 30 minutes today. This is a much better defensive matchup than Toronto. You look at here on the season, Washington, they are bottom 8 in points allowed to the power forward position, and they are the second worst defensive team in the NBA to the center position, giving up 22 points per game. And again, thanks to our friends at Fantasy Pros, we can take a little more narrow look at the data here. And over the last 7 games, Washington giving up the 3rd most points to opposing power forwards, giving up 24.84 points per game. And versus the center position over the last 7 games, Washington, the 2nd worst defense in the NBA, giving up 29.24 points per game. Really, really great defensive matchup here for Sabonis. Look at the head-to-head data. Each of the last 2 times he played Washington, including the last time they played on December 18th, he had 28 points. So solid overall. I know the season data doesn't look great for Sabonis. A 47% hit rate, 32 out of 68 games he's cashed this over. But this matchup is just too juicy not to take. And I know that there's a blowout potential, and maybe second night of a back-to-back he doesn't play a ton. But I do think Sabonis here, even if he only plays, let's say, 25, 30 minutes, I think he should be able to score 21 points. This is just way too good of a matchup to pass up on. All right, guys, for the third prop of today's slate, we're switching our gears to the Bulls Rockets game kicks off at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We're going with Fred VanVleet of the Houston Rockets over 8.5 assists. He's covered this line in 7 of his last 10 games. Pretty good overall. On the 2023 season as a whole, the data is not fantastic. You see here, 44% hit rate, 27 out of 61 games this year. He has cashed this over. But when you look at the head-to-head data, the last time they played Chicago back on January 10th of this season, he had 10 assists in what was a 5-point loss for Houston. But that game, what's interesting about that one here is the potential assist. So he played 42 minutes. He played a ton of minutes in that game. I don't know if he'll play anywhere close to that this time around. But the potential assist, he had 22 potential assists in that game, which is a staggeringly high number, and he did finish with 10 assists overall. I do think Chicago, look at them back in January versus now, I do think they're kind of a worse team. It's tough because in ways they've gotten better with LaVine out, but they've had quite a few injuries now. You're looking at the injury report for tonight's game for Chicago. Caruso's game time decision. Kobe White's been dinged up. Game time decision. So, their guards have been kind of dinged up. I mean, they're probably going to play, but they're playing hurt. DeRozan's been playing very well, and Vucevic has been playing pretty well overall, though defensively, Vucevic is kind of a nightmare. If Şengün was playing in this game, I would hammer Şengün's points because I think he would dominate in this matchup versus Vucevic, but unfortunately, he is, I believe he's out. Yeah, he's out. So I like Van Vliet here, though, over 8.5 assists. Again, he had 22 potential assists the last time they played. This line is at plus 105 on DraftKings. I know it's a plus money odd. I just really like the spot here for Van Vliet. And look, defensively, on the right side of the screen here, you'll see on the season, Chicago, bottom 7 team in the NBA in terms of assists allowed, giving up 28 assists per game. And versus point guards on the season, they are 17th, which is still bottom half of the league, giving up 8.6 assists per game. But, again, thanks to our friends over at Fantasy Pros, over the last 7 games, the Chicago Bulls have given up the 3rd most assists in the NBA to opposing point guards, giving up 11.02 assists per game over the last 7 games to opposing point guards. So, although defensively on the year they've been decent, over the last 7 games or so, they have definitely been a lot worse. So I'm going to bet on that matchup and the fact that Van Vliet here had 22 potential assists the last time they played. I think he should be able to cash this line against the Chicago Bulls. All right, guys, for the 4th prop of today's slate, we're targeting the Bucks Nets game, which kicks off at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We're going with Dennis Schroeder of the Brooklyn Nets over 19.5 points plus assists. Now, look, at first glance, the data is not fantastic. It's not terrible, but it's not fantastic. 6 of his last 10 games, he has cashed this over. You see here, he's missed the mark by just a little bit every time. On the 2023 season as a whole, you'll see a 51% hit rate, 35 out of 69 games this year. He has cashed this over. There is no head-to-head data because he has not played Milwaukee since joining the Brooklyn Nets. But thanks to our friends over at StatMuse, I was able to look up Dennis Schroeder's careers versus Milwaukee. I wanted to narrow it down a little bit. I didn't want to do his whole career. So I looked at Dennis Schroeder's numbers versus Milwaukee since 2020. He's played the Bucks 9 times since the 2019-2020 season. And in those 9 games, he's averaged 17.6 points and 5.2 assists per game. Just in points alone, he nearly cashes this over. He played them 2 times this year when he was with the Toronto Raptors. The last time on November 15th, he came off the bench. He only played 23 minutes. He had 9 points and 5 assists, so he did miss the mark that time. The previous time, though, on November 1st of this year, he played 29 minutes. He had 24 points and 11 assists. He has cashed this line in 3 of the last 5 times. One second. I may not have glasses on, but I have contacts. I honestly, if you guys, a little more sharing about me personally, I have god-awful eyesight. I'm basically legally blind without my contacts or my glasses on. Trying to read a small thing on my phone while trying to record, a little difficult. But he has cashed this line in 4 of his last 6 games versus Milwaukee. And the matchup is just too great defensively. The Milwaukee Bucks on the year are the worst ranked defensive team in the NBA in terms of points allowed to opposing point guards. You see here, giving up 26 points per game on the season. That is dead last in the NBA. But even if you narrow that data down to the last 7 games, it's even worse. They're still the worst team, but they give up 33 points per game to opposing point guards over the last 7 games. I think we'll cover this mostly in points alone, but we'll throw the assists on there too, just to make it a little easier. This is a DraftKings and Caesars exclusive. It's a minus 145 on DraftKings, minus 190 on Caesars. I don't know. I see point guards matched up with Damian Lillard and the Milwaukee Bucks, and I kind of have to just bet the over in that matchup. I feel like you're going to make money all year long if you just keep betting point guards against Milwaukee. And Schroeder, he's going to play enough minutes here. You look over his last 10 games, he's been playing an average of 35 minutes per game over his last 10 games for the Nets. He's going to play a shit ton of minutes. And also the potential assists, 14.4 potential assists over his last 10 games. That's the average per game. So I really love this spot here for Dennis Schroeder. All right, guys, for the 5th player prop of today's slate, we're going to the Jazz Mavericks game, which kicks off at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. We're going with Lauri Markkanen of the Utah Jazz under 22.5 points. Again, this is a DraftKings exclusive at minus 145 odds. You could go a little lower here, and you get it available on more sportsbooks. If you took it at under 21.5 here, it's available everywhere, but the data does not look nearly as good when you take that 1 point off. It's crazy what 1 point difference can make. Little like how the green changes there on the screen. Look here, 8 of his last 10 games, Markkanen has cashed this under a couple times. You see here a couple, San Antonio, you have Miami, that's kind of an outlier game, but San Antonio really bad defensively versus big guys. But overall, he's been covering it pretty consistently. His last 20 games, a 65% hit rate, 13 of his last 20 games, he's cashed this under. And on the 2023 season as a whole, a 54% hit rate, 28 out of 52 games. Look at the head-to-head data here. 3 of the last 5 times he's faced off with Dallas, he's cashed this under. The one time they played this year on January 1st, it was a big blowout win for Utah. He had 17 points. He only played 25 minutes in that game. But the thing is, I could see the opposite happening this time around. Last time Utah killed the Mavs, they absolutely crushed them. I think the opposite could happen this time. The Jazz obviously are kind of in tank mode now as they pretty much realize their season is over. Dallas, overall defensively, you see here they are a bottom 10 team in the NBA in terms of points allowed. But versus the centers, they are actually top 12 in the NBA on the season. And over the last 7 games, they are a top 5 defensive team versus the center position. And even when you look at power forwards, on the season, they are a bottom 6 team. But in the last 7 games, they are a top 10 defensive team in the NBA against the power forward position. So defensively down low, they have gotten a lot better. Obviously, the addition of Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington and all these other players have really stepped up. Lively's been playing very well. So they've actually been very good defensively down low over the last, I would say even the last 15 games. Unders have been cashing pretty consistently versus those Mavericks big men. And you just mix that with the fact that Markkanen has been dealing with some injuries of late. He is a game time decision for tonight with a quadriceps injury. So there's a chance he may not even play. But I'm banking on if he does play with this injury, I just don't see him having a big offensive night and scoring. I know it's only 23 points he needs to score. I just don't see it. The last time he played was March 18th, so it's not like he hasn't played in months. He's only had a couple days off. But you see here, he played on March 2nd, and then he didn't play again until March 18th. So he had over 2 weeks off, and then from there, he went right into to playing tonight. So he's just coming back from injury. That was his first game back. He had 22 points and a loss to Minnesota. I do think here the unders are a pretty good bet. All right, guys, for the 6th player prop of today's slate, sticking with this exact same game, but going on the opposite side of things, we're going to go with Daniel Gafford over 18.5 points plus rebounds. Again, the data is strong here. 6 of his last 10 games, he has cashed this over. Shows the data his last 20, 65% hit rate. 13 of his last 20 games, he's cashed the over. And on the 2023 season as a whole, a 58% hit rate. 36 out of 62 games this year, he has cashed this over. Again, since joining the Dallas Mavericks, he has not played Utah, so there is no head-to-head data here. And because he's coming over from the Eastern Conference, I don't really feel like we need to go look at StatMuse to see the head-to-head match versus Utah. What matters to me here is that now on the season, you'll see Utah, they're a bottom 10 team defensively, giving up 19 points per game. But over their last 7 games, they are the worst defensive team in the NBA against centers. You see here, over the last 7 games, they're giving up 31.7 points and 16.8 rebounds per game to opposing centers. The centers have been having a field day going up against Utah. Again, this is a team that's tanking now. They're over. They're out of the playoff race. I know they're not technically out of the playoff race, but let's be honest, guys. They are out of the playoff race. They know that, and you can see it in their play. I'm expecting Daniel Gafford to take huge advantage of the matchup here, and that's why I love this prop here. Over 18.5 points plus rebounds. I love this line. It's available pretty much anywhere except for FanDuel. We're getting it on DraftKings at -115. All right, guys, the 7th player prop for today's action. We're targeting the Knicks-Nuggets game, which kicks off at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We're going with Jalen Brunson of the New York Knicks under 28.5 points. Now, I know me betting a Brunson under probably gets you guys a lot of... I'm going to see a lot of comments, I'm assuming. This guy's an idiot. Does he even watch basketball? You're betting a Jalen Brunson under? Listen, I get it. And you look at the data here. He's only covered this line in 5 of his last 10 games. And you see in 3 straight games, he's had pretty big scoring performances. On the season as a whole, though, it is a 52% hit rate. 33 out of 63 games, he's cashed the under. And look at the head-to-head data here. Each of the last 3 times he's faced off with the Denver Nuggets, he's cashed the under, including the last time they played on January 25th. He only had 21 points. Now, it was a blowout win for the Knicks, and he played only 26.6 minutes, but he did cash the under by a good margin. Denver is a heavy favorite in tonight's matchup. I believe at the time of recording, they're like a 9.5 point favorite here against the Knicks. And defensively, the Denver Nuggets here on the season, top 5 defensive team in the NBA in terms of points allowed to point guards, giving up just 22 points per game to opposing point guards. And if you narrow that data down to the last 7 games, they are the 2nd best team defensively in the NBA against point guards. They've given up just 18.3 points per game to opposing point guards over the last 7 games. So I love the matchup here, the head-to-head matchup. I know it's Brunson, and look, if I'm going to get burned, I'm going to get burned. I just think for the value, again, it's -125 on DraftKings. It's only available on DraftKings and on Prize Picks. You could go lower, 27.5, and you'll see there it's available on more sportsbooks. The data actually doesn't change all that much. I think it goes from 52% to 51%. So it really doesn't change it that much, but I'm going to go play it safe, go with the 28.5 point line, a little bit less value there. But the matchup's just too good to pass up. This is a really good game. I know it's Brunson. I know he's the Knicks superhero, but Denver's a really good defensive team on the perimeter. I got to take the line here. All right, guys, for the 8th prop of today's slate, we're now switching over to the Suns and Hawks game kicks off at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going with Bradley Beal of the Phoenix Suns over 4.5 assists. This line is at -140, so a little bit higher odds. It is also available on Caesars and on BetMGM. And again, as always, you can go a little bit lower. I mean, you can go a little bit higher, excuse me. You can go to like 5.5 plus 135, and you see it's available on DraftKings, Caesars, FanDuel. So it all you fluctuate the line, and you can find some other things. The 5-point line, I believe, is only on Prize Picks and Underdog. So you could go with 5, which I believe is basically the same thing as 4.5. So you get this line on Prize Picks, Underdog, pretty much everywhere but FanDuel. This over 4.5 point line. But Bradley Beal, 7 of his last 10 games, he's cashed this over, including 4 straight games. Even you go to his last 20 games, 14 of his last 20 games, he's cashed this over. It's a 70% hit rate. And on the 2023 season as a whole, a 57% hit rate. 23 out of 40 games this year, he has cashed this over. And you look at the head-to-head matchup. The last time that these guys played this year on February 2nd, he had 10 assists in what was actually a 9-point loss for Phoenix. He had 14 potential assists. He did play 40 minutes. They are on the second night of a back-to-back. I don't expect Bradley Beal to play 40 minutes again tonight, but he had 14 potential assists the last time they played, and he finished with 10. We only need him here to get 5 assists. And again, I think that accounts for the fact that he probably isn't going to play as many minutes the last time they played here. Overall, defensively, Atlanta, bottom 4 team in the NBA in terms of assists allowed. And although on the season total versus shooting guards, you see here they're still bottom half, but they're a little bit better than they are versus, say, the point guard position. You see versus point guards, they're bottom 3. Still pretty solid data. I thought about taking the Booker line considering the matchup, but the problem is that his assist line is a lot higher. I think Bradley Beal to get 5 assists. I'm not saying nothing's a surefire bet when it comes to sports betting, but I do like the spot here. I think it's easy enough for him to hit. He doesn't need to play 40 minutes to hit this line. I think as long as he plays at least in the ballpark of 25, 30 minutes, for him to get 5 assists is pretty reasonable. All right, guys, and for the 9th prop of today's slate, we are going with we're sticking with the same game. We're going with DeJounte Murray of the Atlanta Hawks under 26.5 points. Now, he has cashed this line in 6 of his last 10 games. He's had a couple of really, really big performances, though, for Atlanta. But over the last 20 games, 75% hit rate. On the season, a 78% hit rate. You look at the head-to-head matchup. The last time they played on February 2nd, he had 22 points. He's cashed each of the last 3 times he's faced off with the Phoenix Suns. Now, look, I know what you guys are all going to say. Check the injury report, and trust me, I have. I know Atlanta, a lot of guys are out here. No Sadiq Bey, no Kobe Bufkin, no AJ Griffin, no Muhammad, no Jalen Johnson. Game time decision. Trae Young is out. They have so many guys out. Why would DeJounte Murray not score 26.5 points? The reality is we don't have a ton of data for when this happens, and you see here only one time this season has DeJounte Murray played without Jalen Johnson, without Trae Young, and without Sadiq Bey. Just those 3. We're not counting anybody else. Just those 3. Only one instance that's back just not too long ago on March 13th, about a week ago. He had 40 points versus Portland, but that's also Portland, who are one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. So look, I guess what I'm trying to say is I know it's a risk. I know the data, it looks fantastic, but obviously, it's a little bit different because you have a lot of guys out for Atlanta. I just think that defensively, if you're Phoenix, you know that DeJounte Murray is essentially all they have. Defensively, you're going to go ahead and push up on him. Like, you're going to know, hey, this is the guy we got to focus on because everybody else for Atlanta is out. Obviously, Murray's going to run the offense. He's going to take the most shots probably. Listen, I know it's risky, but, at -130 on DraftKings, -113 on FanDuel, the data is very good overall. Again, I know a lot of that data counts when he has Trae Young, when he has the other pieces, but I'm still going to take it. I'm going to ride with it regardless. You guys, obviously, we always say fade me if you want to fade me, but I'm going to ride with the under, win or lose. I really do like the spot. And guys, I actually miscounted, so I actually only have 9 props for today's slate. So that is it for me today. Again, apologies, no parlay today. We're going to obviously be back tomorrow with our straight props and our 5-leg Freaky Friday parlay. Just got a lot of videos we're working on right now between college basketball and MLB and stuff like that. So I'm going to save some time here. This video is already running on the longer side. We're already at 23 minutes. So we're going to end it there. Again, no parlay today, but we have 9 props, tons of data and tons of information that I just share with you guys that you guys can use or fade. As always, like I always say, people in the comments are always saying stuff. Listen, fade me. And there's one guy, I love him. I think it's Broken Arrow Keys is his name. I love him. Supporter, but he fades all the time. Listen, that's what you want to do. That's what you got to do. But guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much as always for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, drop a comment down below. One more time, I will be back tomorrow with our 5-leg Freaky Friday parlay plus our regular prop bets. But guys, that is it for me today. Enjoy March Madness. Today's the first day of the tournament. Enjoy it. Watch all the games. Just take it all in. It's one of the best times of the year. Go Huskies. As always, again, comment Huskies down below. But guys, I will see you all tomorrow. Until then, I hope we're all winners.